This podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Daniel Martinez. Today we have special guest, Mr. Casey Mericle, and our co-host, Anthony Gaona. How are you doing today, Casey?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
What part of the country do you live in?
I'm in Missouri, flyover country.
Missouri. I was just in Missouri. I was in Columbia last week.
Yeah. Well, did you like the University of Missouri? Is that what you went to see?
No. My wife has her best friend lives in Columbia, so we're visiting her in Columbia.
Gotcha.
I think we went to. We were pretty much in Columbia for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah, it's pretty up there.
So, one of the first questions I like asking, just to kind of give you a base of like how long you been in real estate and how long have you been doing like crazy creative real estate? Because I think it's a whole nother question, because I think everybody like grows into that person eventually, and there's like a turning point. And for me, it was like 3 years in, and then I became like the next level, which I think in my opinion was there. But like, when did you start, and then what was like that light bulb moment where you're like, okay, this is crazy?
Yeah. Started, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. But it took me, like, I was looking at real estate for about 5 years before that. I just couldn't figure out how to scrape up enough money and be courageous enough to make a deal. For your second question, when did I try to get creative with real estate? Boy, those first deals, I was just flipping houses off the courthouse steps, and then I went into like non-performing notes. So, which is on its own is crazy enough. So I would say pretty soon after that, maybe a couple of years after that. So, and then it just, kind of got out of control.
Hey man, I wanted to preface this conversation by saying that some of the stuff that we've seen you do and some of the things we've seen you post, this goes far beyond the reach of what what you would consider a normal real estate investor does. So I guess you're going to share it with us, but I wanted to let the audience know that if they stick around for this one's going to be, I think, pretty intense based on what we've seen you post and talk about. But how does a person go from a brand new investor, kind of not knowing where to go and ending up, that far down, in advanced real estate technologies?
Well, part of it is hard work and dedication, right? But then, I just found good mentors, and I found some education that I thought was just kind of blew me away. And I kind of have an addictive personality, so when I find something that blows me away, I try to go deep down the rabbit hole and figure out, what makes it tick, and how I could like improve after every deal, if that makes sense.
I love the analogy. Yeah. Cause I do very much have an addictive personality. Like, I'm addicted to fitness, and I go down these rabbit holes and I can't get out for years. And I think that's kind of where Daniel and myself are with real estate right now, is we absolutely love it. We're fascinated by it. We can't stop talking about it. So when we see somebody that's doing things that you're doing in your world, we're like, man, like, we kind of felt like we were already headed there, but we just didn't know how many levels there were to this whole thing.
Wow. There we go.
No, I was getting ready. I didn't expect it to pop on the screen.
Okay.
I'm working here. So one thing I really wanted to ask you, and this is gonna be used for content later on for yourself probably, and I know you answered it in another video you did recently, but can you go over the basics of an option and how to leverage an option to become wealthy? Whether it's
no problem. So an option is just a contingent real estate contract, right? And so the only real difference between an option and like a purchase agreement, for instance, is that in a purchase agreement, typically you have earnest money when you're talking about real estate, as opposed to in an option, you've got something called option consideration. And that option consideration is non-refundable, as opposed to earnest money, which is refundable. The other part of an option is it's unilateral instead of bilateral. So you've got the right to purchase a property or properties, but not the obligation, right? So, if I came to you guys and said, hey, I don't really like going to people and saying, hey, I want to buy an option from you, because that scares them and they don't understand what that is. So I say, hey, let's make an agreement. We'll agree that I'll pay you, $300,000 for your property. But I need 9 months to do that, or maybe 9 years to do that. I don't know. and I'm going to give you, $50,000 right now. And if I don't come back, keep the 50,000, sell the property again to somebody else. But if I do come back, take that 50,000 off the 300, and whenever I exercise the option, whether that's in 9 months or 9 years, whatever we agree to, I get to take that $50,000 off the purchase price. So it'd be 250 back to me at that point. If that makes sense.
So what I like about this is it really goes like we have a lot of stock friends that do options. So it's really it's using the same practices, just with real estate versus stocks. I mean, it's literally the same thing. But one thing I really want to ask you is like, what's the benefit and upside to you doing? Why give them $50,000 now and not buy it outright? What's the benefit as far as doing the type of transaction or even option in general?
Yeah, there could be a ton of benefits, but a lot of times it's a timing mechanism. So let's say they don't want to sell right away, right? Or if they don't want to sell right away, like let's say it's a house, right? Their baby is 5 years old. They want them to go to school in this school district. Okay, so you're 13 years away from making that happen. Well, you say to them, hey, let's lock in a price today, even if it's a little bit of a high price. So let's say $300,000 is a little over fair market value, right? So you're locking in a price today, right? You're giving them some money. Maybe it's 50,000, maybe it's 5,000. Could be either one, right? And you're getting the benefit of growth and appreciation for down the road, especially if it's a long-term option, right? So, and options solve a lot of timing issues. They can solve debt issues. Somebody's over leveraged, they need more money for a property, but they don't have any money and they're in debt up to their eyeballs. Well, they could go find somebody and give them an option in exchange for money. That money might be the money they need to get them over the hump to, fix up the property or pay their taxes or whatever, right? And then that gets the deal done, but there's no more debt on the property. So it's just, options are just super high leverage, no debt, small risk. Even though I said 50,000, like I said, you could have got that option for 500.
This show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
You're risking very little. Usually you can get an option for 5 to 20% of a purchase price, sometimes less, sometimes more.
Yeah, I love this subject. Before I even knew what I was doing, I was using options on properties for us to get a good look at these large scale farm and ranch properties, and then see what we could do to monetize them. Right? Like, is this a development play? Is this a wholesale deal? Right. But yeah, giving little to nothing up front and then leveraging it. I can already tell. I wish this interview was 4 hours, but I know I feel like we're going to go deep and it's going to be over. Can you talk about how you leverage those? Like, can you give us a real world example that maybe with a larger scale property, maybe like a commercial property, how you could leverage an option in your favor? And then do you have alternate exits you're thinking about? Like in terms of if you have an option on a large scale, like let's say a shopping center, and you're looking for an exit to maybe trade it into notes or into other asset class like land. Are all those on your radar while you're thinking about an exit for this property?
Yeah, I'm thinking about an exit. I'm thinking about probably 5 exits before I enter. So like, I don't want to enter unless I've got a bunch of exits, right? I want, I'm like an assassin in a room. I want to know where all the doors are to get out, you know? So yes. So how am I leveraging one? So I'm working on one right now. Property is agricultural property on the periphery of a major metro. We're getting an option essentially to rezone, right? And so to industrial, right? And so that land is already adjacent to some other industrial. So we think that that's a nice play right there. But we need the seller to give us time to go work out entitlements and permits and such, right? And so in that case, we said, hey, we'll buy the property. We'll buy the property. We wanted to buy the property outright. He said no, and then we said, hey, well, why don't we agree to a little bit higher price? And then it was, I think it's 500,000 more than asking, and he agreed to that with an option to buy. But we got a long, slow burn to get our entitlements in order, and if they are in order, then that property is probably worth 3 to 4x. So
amazing.
Yeah, but I didn't have to go get debt, right? I didn't have to spend every cent I had. I didn't have to go get LPs, right? That's a lot of benefit right there.
Okay, I gotcha. So it gives you it's like extra. I like that example because it gives you the ability to do the entitlements, and that's what takes the longest part. And usually we're trying to do that under contract, but if you give them the option, it's more of, I'll give you some money up front. Boom. And I think we kind of do the same thing just with like the earnest money. Hey, we'll sign over the earnest money right now. Just give us that due diligence period, but you're using an option in your own little way.
Yeah. Well, and I also like it because I can record the option, right? So, and for you guys, maybe you'd like, if it's a land play, I might say to them, hey, why don't you just let me lease the land? Because you can combine a lease with an option pretty easily. Instead of saying, hey, we'll buy it, I would start with saying, hey, the only way this works is if we can lease it for a little while to figure out what we're going to do with it, because that'll cost you very little money. And then, but hey, we'll agree on a price today. You tell us a price, and then, don't argue about the price. Usually if you can get a long-term option, especially, don't argue about the price, because the price is less important than basically the monthly payments that you pay. Because you'll want a big spread in your cash flow. And as long as you're getting a big spread, you can hold that thing forever. So,
and I have a deal I want you to look at. We're looking at a 300-acre hay farm close by San Antonio in a really pretty hot area. The guy wants 15 million. I feel like he's pretty close to retail, but he's pretty motivated. He keeps calling us. So I'm imagining we could put something creative together on that deal. But that might be a situation where there's some cash flow involved, and also if the seller's willing to finance it, maybe some of the cash flow from the property could help us offset the payment. So maybe you could take a look at that one for us.
Yeah. Well, if 15 million is close to fair market value, then you could probably say to him, hey, I'll lease it from you for a year, or maybe it's 2 years, right? At some kind of low payments. But we've got to get, XYZ, we've got to get it chopped up, or we've got to get it entitled, or we've got whatever it is. I don't know exactly what the specifics are, but I mean, that's a nice play for that. And you could agree to, like, most sellers just are looking for their high price. If you can come and pay their high price, now you've got to figure out the math on if it will actually work. Because not like some prices are so high, it makes no sense, right? But then, prices that are at fair market value, if you can do it essentially on time, usually you can make it work out if you've got a way to do that.
So this is one of the good tweets. I always like we have our own students that we teach, and some of our students, good tweet. This is one we shared. Negotiations 0 3, give away the little stuff, which is the price, and to get the big stuff, which is the financing. I love this tweet because it kind of simplifies a lot of sellers, they want their price, and you're on the opposite. Like, give them their price. Who cares? As long as we get the financing, it doesn't really matter, within reason.
Yeah.
Within reason. And I think that's the biggest caveat, is within reason, you can give them the price.
Well, I've had a lot of sellers get upset with me over the years about a price that was less than they've asked, right? But I have not once had a seller get mad at me for giving them the price that they asked for. In fact, I've even given them more sometimes. Yeah, I've never got kicked out of anywhere for giving them their asking price or higher, but I have got kicked out of many places for not. So.
And I love the philosophy, and I think we see that in your tweets and in your interactions. Like, we kind of almost know who you are, even though, you know, we've had very limited interaction so far. But Daniel and myself would carry the same philosophy, and we would teach that to our students. Is like, why we don't like to negotiate on price. Like, let's try to make the deal work based around the guy's number, and then see if we can build a deal around it. And hearing you say that, I mean, it makes perfect sense. You know, maybe that's why we're so fascinated by your style.
Well, and the other thing is say there's something else in the deal that you want, you know, or say there's an obstacle that you guys can't get over, right? Going back to them, if you think it's a fair price up front and you agree to their asking price, what's stopping you from throwing in a little bit more money to overcome that objection and getting them to say yes? Because a lot of times you can do that, you know, maybe it's adding 20 grand or 100 grand or $1 million more to a deal. But if it's worth more than that to you to change some term in that contract, then you probably should do it. So, and it's not that hard. Like, just like, I've got this greed gland. Like, if you say, oh, you want to give me, you know, $100,000 more to change this thing that's really inconsequential to me, okay, yeah, I'll do that. So
No, I've been telling our students this, like sometimes it makes sense, and it really depends on. You always have to know what the real cash value of that property is when you're making that offer to make sure you're within reason, because you don't want to go the opposite way where you're overpaying for a property that's already overpriced significantly. And so you always got to figure out, like, what is the cash value of it today, right now, and is it within reason to overpay this much? And if you got longer debt, maybe it might be within reason to overpay $200,000, $100,000, and you can really negotiate that, and it might make even more sense to get longer debt just by overpaying that extra 100, 200 grand or $500,000, whatever it looks like.
Well, there's something called a time value money calculator, and you can very easily Google it, put in, you know, basically four different terms, you know, the length of time, the amount, you know, the interest rate, and the amortization schedule, and it can very easily tell you how much that, you know, by giving them $100,000 more, what's $100,000, you know, in 10 years at 5%? It's not much. That's what it is. So you can tailor your offer. I would say, you know, the next level of that is get in the time value money calculator and figure out, before you make an offer, figure out what that is, because you'll be able to make just a shrewd seller, a shrewd deal by adding more money and negotiating those other terms. So
I think one of the funniest part about this is, like, yeah, when I had no money, I couldn't get into real estate, and I think now you're doing the same thing. The part you struggled in the beginning, you're now doing that creatively with every transaction, whether you have money or not. You're just trying to get the no money deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, turn that 8 sideways, you know.
Yeah. Dead eights. Can you explain what a dead 8 is, or a lazy 8?
Yeah, well, it's infinity. It's infinity. So if you've got no money in a deal, you're making an infinite return. And you turn the 8 sideways, and the 8 is an infinity sign. And then if you've got no money in the deal, you know, once you get your money out, you've got no money in the deal at all, or maybe you didn't put in any in the first place. And then, you know, if you're making a return and you have no money in it, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we always talk about that. Is like, there's a lot of people like, oh, I need a 4% return in stocks. I'm like, okay, good job, man. Like, that's it. I want to cover this next one right here too, because this one's a little bit more. This one's a good one. I've never seen anything like this, but I know the analogy of it. But I want to get your explanation on it. I think you tweeted this today.
Yep.
You tweeted this, that and this is where like most people they always see the profits and that's all there is in the property, but there's always all these other things: tax benefits, use, amortization, security, growth, income. One of the things I like about it was the tax benefits. It's like really hidden in there. Not a lot of people think about that, but the tax benefits that you can give sellers just by negotiating that into the deal, and not everybody wants cash.
Yeah, no. So it took me a long time to figure that out, right? So those are kind of the benefits of owning property right there that you showed, right? And so whether you're on the buy side or the sell side, or even if you're on the partnership side, excuse me, what you're trying to do, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what the most important thing is to the other side of the table. And that might be a seller, that might be an investor, right? And so typically what I say to them is, you pick, it's like when you're in PE in school and you were the captain, right? Like you pick the best one, the best person at whatever we're playing, you pick first. That's fine. And I might even let them pick second. But then I want that other stuff, right? So like, pick one or two of those. I'll take the other things and we'll figure out how to work out a deal. So, it doesn't always have to be adversarial. It can be cooperative. So
How do you how do you frame that conversation when you're talking to a seller as far as the other advantages? Because I think most sellers, they only think about, and this is we talk about this all the time. Me and Anthony calls it hitting all the elevators on the hitting all the buttons in the elevator to see what is important to them.
Yeah.
But how do you frame that in your conversation with the seller? Like, is it cash you need? Is it a down payment? Is it cash flow? Is it what other? How do you frame that when you're talking to sellers?
I usually just ask them, is there anything you need other than cash? And what is it?
I love that question.
Would you take anything other than cash?
Wow.
Because if they say yes, and sometimes it'll be yes and specific. Like I had a lady, older couple back in the day that I bought a house off of that nobody else could, like she had this thing on the market for 3 years because it was way overpriced. It's a great neighborhood. It's a great house, but it wouldn't move because every time the market moved up, she moved up.
Yep.
Her price, right? And so, I asked her that question, like, other than, cash, what do you want? Like, what floats your boat? Is there anything you really want to do? What are you doing with this cash? She's like, I'd really like to go to Hawaii. I said, well, listen, how about this? Let's do my price. We're not that far apart, but I'll send you first class to Hawaii and I'll pay for your hotel. Now, what she doesn't know is my points paid for that vacation, right?
Yeah.
But I got my price. So I had the points. That wasn't hard. So it really didn't cost me anything.
And for her, she's like, I'm getting a vacation with the cash too.
Yeah, she's going first class. I put her in a nice place. So, that's what she needed to get her over the hump. So.
I love that story, man. I love that story.
That's good. One of the things, this is another tweet too that you have, is that there's a million ways to make a deal. You shouldn't get disappointed when you only try one. I think that's the epitome of that conversation right there. That's such brilliant, man. I love that. That's so cool. I think Anthony's going to add that to his question.
Well, it's just like what I find ridiculous in real estate is there is a culture of offer, counter offer, offer, counter offer, especially through the brokerage community. Now, that's not their fault because they've been lawyered to death and that's all they know and they've got to stay in their box, right? But I was not made for a box. And so there's like, I don't really love offer, counter offer. Tell me what you want. Let's have a meeting, bring your seller. Let's chat. Because a lot of times I can make a deal. Like if somebody will talk with me, I can typically figure out how to make a deal with them. So, but But if I'm offering and counter offering, or if I'm going through a broker, that's much more difficult unless the broker's really good. And some are, and some can do it. But yeah, I like direct better.
Okay, so I think we're in the same boat again. We love being direct to seller because then there's no filter, right, when you're negotiating. So can you give us some tips on chatting with an agent or a broker? Because we actually love on market strategy.
Well, gosh, tips. I don't know if I'm going to tell you anything that's going to split the atom on this, because I'm still trying to figure out brokers myself, even though I've been at this for a long time, right? So double ending is always good, right? Closing quickly is always good. Giving a price that they want is always good, right? I try to be easy. I try to respond quickly whenever I can. There are some times where due to like zoning of like that property we were talking about before, like the broker would have loved for me to be done with that a long time ago, but I'm not. I'm sorry, but I'm moving at the speed of government. So you know who you are, broker. Yeah, so I don't know, like I don't have a great, like, the answer I have for you've probably heard 20 times, right? What I would say is like, if I need to incentivize a broker, I might give them a bigger commission, right? But I like right now in this current market, I don't feel like I have to do that, because like I can, if the deal warrants that and it makes sense, I would. But not a lot of things are selling right now, so brokers like me a lot more than they did a year ago.
Yeah, I love the leverage change, man.
But not many other people are buying.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's the perfect place for that, or the space for that right now. Yeah, because it's like that's why we're enjoying shopping off the MLS now. It's because we were going direct to seller for 5 years straight, and then now it's like we can call 20 agents today, and they're all like hungry to make a deal. So we know we got an agent when they're like not negotiating on our behalf, but they're like, you know what I would do? I would do this, and I would do this. They're kind of giving you all of the nuggets that you would need to put the deal together. And then those are the deals we've been going after. Is like, if the agent's on our side, but if the agent stonewalls us, like, we just want a full price offer, we don't want to do anything. Like, well, okay, well, I'll follow up with you in 6 months when you still have the property.
Well, I mean, I feel like the move is, offer to make the agent's car payment, because they're going to have trouble doing that for the next little bit. Let's see if you can get better.
That's a good point.
I'm only kind of kidding on that.
Yeah, because we can give the seller a crutch directly, but like, how can you compensate that agent early, right? Send you
how much is your car payment? What are you, how much do you need to make that work every month right now? I'm a stickler.
So
agents give up the sauce, man. You make friends with the agent, and they're like, I'm not telling you this because I can't tell you, but if I was you guys, then they hit you with the sauce. We're like, okay, we like this guy now.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, I don't know if you like just tweet stuff like this, or do you actually tell us the sellers? But it always makes me laugh, because this tweet says, tell the seller that you don't make their bad decisions. You didn't make their bad decisions, and you don't intend to pay for it.
Well, I mean, I've said that before. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a negotiation and like you initially like agree on a price, and then they keep hitting you with all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And they expect you to solve the world's problems and contribute more money. And so I'll say that. Yeah, they aren't solving my problems.
So
and they're not trying to. So like, hey man, life's rough. So too bad. Like, we agreed. Quit hitting me for something else.
We had a seller, and this is a side story for us, is we had a seller, we agreed on price and everything, and then we mentioned taxes to him, and then he raised his price $200,000.
Yeah.
And then Anthony was like, well, if you raise your price $200,000, you're just trying to make us pay your taxes?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would, if somebody did that to me, I'd say, well, we'll do that, and I'll get you to pay less taxes, but you're financing it to do that, so it's fine with me.
So and this is where I think we come back to this: is you give them more money. No one's ever going to say no to more money. So like, hey, if taxes are the issue, let's give you more money at no interest, so you have to pay less in taxes.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? There's a million ways to make a deal, guys. There's a million ways to make a deal. So.
I'm sure you use that as part of your arsenal, like the tax strategy based on your diagram. Are you at liberty to kind of share how you open up that conversation with the seller? Is that top secret?
Well, no. You're saying how do I get them to finance? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So you have a guy who says, "No, man, I just want my 10 million. I don't want to finance anything. I'm good right now." How do you open up that tax conversation with them? Did you have a way to do that?
Well,
like a lead in?
So is 10 million a fair market value?
Yeah, let's say that's close to retail, but it's still probably a little bit of a deal. It's like it's a pretty good price.
I would probably say to them, hey man, let's you and me agree that if 10 million was the right price, it'd be sold already. And then I'd shut up and let them talk. And then I say, well, 10 million isn't the right number. And it's, oh, I had somebody want to buy it for 10 million. Why isn't it sold then? And again, shut up, right? And then they're going to come to and then I go back with, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but interest rates have went from 3% to like 7-8%. So you've lost like you're losing like half the value of your property right now. And every day you go longer and they raise rates, that means you're getting less. So it seems like you're taking a bigger risk than I am. Don't you think? So I get them thinking about it. So but if you wanted to, I could pay something close in between what you consider fair market value and what I do. But in order to do that, you're going to have to take an income stream. But I don't know if you know, but most people really love like a triple net lease. You know what a triple net lease is? You don't pay for anything on the property. You just sit back and you collect a check. We'll send it to your mailbox or to your bank. If you're too lazy to walk to your mailbox, I'll just send it right to your bank. How's that sound? There you go. We'll just agree on a price today. There, you just got a lease option.
That's gold right there, man. I'm taking
some good
notes.
Or a finance deal, either one. Yeah.
Lease option or seller finance, anyone is an end goal.
Yeah. So
is a lease option similar to a master lease where you can just sublet it out?
Yeah. So the only difference, you can have a master lease with an option to buy, but when you say master lease or sandwich lease, you're just saying they've got the ability to sublease.
So you said there is in most cases or in some cases an option to buy. So you'll have a master lease with an option to buy, like first right of refusal.
Well, first right of refusal is something a little bit different. A first right of refusal is essentially it's quasi option, right? So recording something like a first right of refusal would say, it would say, you've got to, Anthony, if you go to sell the property, you've got to come to me first. And if I match that offer, right, then I can buy it, essentially. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. But you can get really fancy with that, right? Like you might say, I can match that offer less 10% or 20% because you were there first and you gave them money for that first right of refusal. But you can also if you want to get super fancy with it, you can say, I'll match the offer in price, but I'll give you a note. And then you're doing something, because then like one, if you gave them a note on their own property, that'd be great because you could dictate your terms. But two, you can go source notes off market probably for decent discounts. So let's say you built in that 10%, they gave you that 10% discount because you gave them money, and then you did the note thing, and then you went and found a note that you could buy for 80 cents on the dollar, which is possible. Well, you just negotiated basically 30% off the price right there, which is slick.
Oh, dude, that was a mic dropping moment right there. We should just end this whole interview right now. Dang, I never thought about that. And we're in the note game pretty heavy.
So, and this is why I like notes in general, because if you negotiate with notes, you can find a killer discount, maybe 50 cents on the dollar. You know, and it really depends on your negotiation skills. So, if you have, and this is where we like land, your basis might be 40, 50 cents on the dollar already.
Yep.
So if you're offering security at 80% or 90% because you already asked for a discount, you're getting a killer deal, but just by giving them the basis they want.
Yeah. Well, and then, trading notes for property you want to acquire is fun and fair game too, because like you said, your basis might be very low in that, half, right?
Yeah.
But often, not oftentimes, but on occasion, you can trade at par or at fair market value of that note. So instead of 50 cents on the dollar, 100 cents on the dollar, and just capture wild upside. So
that's where we're going to need your help, man. Because I think we got to the point now where we can kind of print paper at will, but then finding those secondary exits for that paper is kind of where we're moving into now.
Well, yeah, you just use it as your down payment. Say, I've got this paper secured by, XYZ. Fair market value on the property is, $200,000. This is my, and you picked it up for $100K. You've built in a nice discount. You don't hardly have to argue about a price. You can still, you can still whittle them down if you want, but if they'll accept paper, then that probably means that you got a tremendous deal.
Oh man, okay, maybe we need to incorporate this into our Castroville hay farm, just to see what the guy wants, and then instead of hitting him with the whole all cash up front, hit him with some notes up front, and then negotiate from there.
Yep,
that'll secure his monthly, and he doesn't have to pull any hay. He can just sit on that paper for a little while.
Yep.
Okay, so I got one more. So I have this tweet. It says, got a debt quote last week, $3 million, 5 years, 30-year AM, non-recourse, 3% interest rate. Should I take it? One of the things I really want to talk about this one, because I knew you're being satirical in the post, I think a lot of people thought you were joking, but it was half satire, half truth.
No, actually, I did lie a little bit. So that 3% rate is a blended rate.
Okay.
It's actually 4.5 accruing, and I think maybe 0.5 amortizing. So it's a balloon note for several years, and so for the time period that I'm paying, it's almost 0%, right? And then
I know what you did there.
A portion of it is accruing at 4.5%, right? So it's a blended rate of about 3%, but that's a real legit deal. But people, there was plenty of people that called BS on me on that. But what they don't understand is they are not me, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting seller financing. The only way they know how to transact is with a bank or a traditional lender.
Yep.
So what I would say back to them is it's very easy to be me. I would invite you to be me. It's more fun. But if you do that, you'll probably get a better deal than I wrote on that tweet. But the problem is you've got to put in some time and effort to figure out how to do it and how to say it and how to negotiate it. So that's not the best deal I've ever gotten on seller financing. It's not even close. I can get a better deal than
that. Not even the best deal, and everybody's not believing it. That's what's so cool about this space. Yeah, we've negotiated some stuff that's just crazy, man. I can't believe, some things that people agree to.
Well, what I was going to say is you remind me of Kermit the Frog. It's it's not easy being green.
Yeah. Well, like, I don't know. You get like if you get enough followers on Twitter, they start to beat up on you and get mad at you. And like I'm not trying to be egotistical there. Like there's so many people that I've met through Twitter that are so talented, and they can do stuff that I can't do. Like there's no way I could do half the stuff that these just killer pros do, right? But if you're talking about getting financing, like I'd put me up against most people. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
So one of the things that I really want to, if everybody listening in on this, is that it does take information, knowledge, and you have to know what to offer. You have to know that you have to have the paperwork. You have to understand the basics. And I think the biggest thing that comes in all of this is you have to have the confidence to ask for that. A lot of people, they get on the phone and they don't understand, and they start, they start like, they don't sound confident over the phone, and they don't even know what to ask for. So I think the basics is understanding what you're doing first, and then being confident in your ask, and then 3 is the paperwork.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second, right? So how am I asking? I'm saying, hey, why would you sell a nice property like this, right? I'm going to get an answer to that. Okay. And from there, I'm going to say, well, are you going to 1031? Are you going to put this in the bank? Are you going to pay the tax? What's that look like, right? And if they're going to 1031, then they're probably not going to take seller financing, right?
Yeah.
But if they're going to put it in the bank or pay the tax, then I say back to them, well, what kind of interest rate are you making at your bank? I say 3 or 4%. Well, let's say they say 4%. Well, if I gave you 25% more, would you be interested in that? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give you 5% on a property that you know already. So it's not that hard. How would you like a triple net lease? Essentially, I'll agree to your price. Yeah, I just got to make sure that I'm making enough money to support my family. So.
Yep.
And if all they care about is price, then sometimes you can make that deal. So
there you go. What is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
I think I tweeted this the other day. In God we trust, and all others must furnish collateral. Jimmy Napier.
What's the last thing you said?
Jimmy Napier. That's from Jimmy Napier.
Jimmy Napier. Okay.
Yeah. So Invest in Debt is a great, quick read.
I have it under my desk. I have to find it.
Invest in Debt by Jimmy Napier. So
Invest in Debt by Jimmy Napier is a good one.
Yeah. So he said that, and I love it because I get hit up for investment quite often. But everybody wants it unsecured, and I don't blame them. I would too. But most of the time I like collateral, unless I know you real well. That's usually my game. So
can you say the quote one more time? Because I think I fumbled up a little bit. Invest in. Go ahead. What's the quote again?
Oh, the quote is, "In God we trust, and all others must furnish collateral."
Okay, that's gonna be a video clip right there. I just had to make sure we got it clearly because that was good.
Jimmy Napier. He's the guy.
Oh, that's funny, man. Any final questions, Anthony? I think this has been a good time.
No, man, I just want to say, Casey, we appreciate your time, man, sharing it with us, and then all the knowledge you're sharing on Twitter. Super, super amazing. We're glad to know you and to be working with you, and hopefully we can do a deal together soon. We had one deal that we're working on right now, a large ranch for $3.5 million, and Daniel's like, maybe we should bring Casey in to help negotiate, and I'm like, never thought of that. Like, we're pretty good at negotiating, but yeah, we thought that would be awesome, man, to see you, work with us on taking one of these down, and we figure out how we can partner on it.
Sure. Well, it's just my biggest problem seems to be time these days. So I'm sorry to disappoint. But yeah, it's man, I do like negotiating. It's fun. Although I never win versus my wife.
You got to know which battles to pick and which ones to walk away from.
Yeah, well, she's a professional negotiator too. It's just I haven't reached that level yet.
That's amazing, man. I think I have that with my family. Like some things has to be my way, but everything else, like where we go to eat, where we go for entertainment, vacation, like you guys will go wherever you guys want. But sometimes you gotta know when to hold them, when to fold them.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think your spouse has the upper hand though, because they know you the best. So it's always a losing battle.
I don't want to win. I don't want to win. Maybe I don't want to win.
Win the argument, lose the war.
For everybody tuning in, you know what to do. Go like, subscribe, go share with a friend. Thank you, Casey, for coming on. We appreciate your time and all the knowledge you've given us. And like I said, I hope we'll do a deal here sooner than later. And for everybody here, go follow him, Casey Mericle on Twitter. That's where we follow him. That's where you get the best sauce. You get it directly from the source. If you're not on Twitter, you're missing out. There's a lot of cool people on Twitter, and you'll never know who you're going to come across. But for everybody here, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you.
Thanks for watching this YouTube video. We hope you found value. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell to watch more videos just like this one.